I'm back. All right. Hey guys, what is going on? Jake Felzine here today to review the GoPro Hero 7, and spoiler alert, cutting right to the chase, I am obsessed with GoPro's newest top-of-the-line camera. The Hero 7 Black is the one that I bought. Quick disclaimer, I purchased this camera completely with my own money. I'm not sponsored by GoPro. It'd be pretty cool someday if I could be sponsored by GoPro, but as of today, no sponsorship, no affiliation. I actually went and traded my first mirrorless camera, my Panasonic G7, to get the funds to even buy this camera. So you know, there's no biases here, nothing that is swaying my opinion. I'm telling you guys the honest truth, what I think about this camera and why I think you should get one too. Second disclaimer, I am a wannabe storyteller and movie maker, and I don't necessarily care too much about the extra fine details of filmmaking and all the technical specs. I know about them, I've spent a year learning them, but cameras like these come along and get me incredibly excited because they go against the grain and they don't do everything perfect as filmmakers would like them, and I don't personally have a problem with that. We'll talk about that more with videos to come, but as much as I love my super nice camera that I'm shooting on with you guys right now, getting all the shutter speed, exposure, etc. correct, I love action cameras just as much as the next person, and I believe they are amazing ways to tell stories. All right, disclaimers out of the way. I have three big things that I want to talk about, guys, with sample footage. You guys got a little bit of sample footage in the beginning. I will do much more sample footage as I talk throughout, as well as at the end of this video. If you want to just cut straight to it, I've got a link there in the description. Jump to that and you can just see kind of a short, my first weekend with this camera, what I was able to shoot, and just get a feel if you like the footage, because let's be honest, not all of us are going to like it. I love it. All right, so I got three things with this camera that have blown me away. Those top three things are stabilization, hyperlapse, and actually the HDR camera mode, which is kind of my sleeper third hit. Those first two, I knew I was going to be impressed and excited about. The HDR photo mode definitely has surprised me, so we'll talk about that one last. First and foremost, let's talk about hyperlapse. This camera has an incredibly cool feature, which is the hyperlapse mode. Now, for those of you who don't know what a hyperlapse is, it's essentially a time lapse with movement. It's very tough. Time lapses are traditionally very cool looking and easy to get because you leave the camera in one spot. There's no movement. Everything that is moving through the frame takes a long time, and then you speed it up, but the camera itself stays still. With a hyperlapse, traditionally, it got a lot more complicated. In order to do movement and a time lapse, you had to have either extreme patience and advanced technical skills on how to shoot pictures, or a gimbal. So to explain those two processes to you guys, if you wanted to do a hyperlapse with a gimbal, you would be using something like this camera, or even a nice DSLR or mirrorless camera in time-lapse mode, taking a whole bunch of pictures, put it in a gimbal, make sure it's nice and stable, and you would try and keep it as level as possible and move with that gimbal to get that smooth hyperlapsey type look. Now, that's the first way. The second way is to literally take your mirrorless camera and shoot picture by picture as you move the hyperlapse. And the way that you're able to do this is you frame each shot as you shoot. So maybe you take one step, have a point in which you're always going to be aiming at with your camera, shoot that shot. Do two steps, point at the same direction, get that same little point off in the distance, shoot that shot again. 24 frames per second, maybe you're filming a movie and you want to hyperlapse. If you're doing that technique, 240 pictures for what, 10 seconds of video? This new feature with hyperlapse on the GoPro just wipes away both of those methods. You don't need a gimbal because it's super stabilized and looks awesome out of the GoPro, and you don't have to sit there and take 240 plus pictures to make it yourself. So first and foremost, the hyperlapse mode is incredible. I've got some examples for you guys, sticking it in your car, even just walking with it. This sample footage that I'm showing now is incredible. It's a little jittery, but I wasn't even trying, guys. I was walking back from tennis with Kyle on Monday, and I was holding it in my little selfie stick and was just kind of like wobbling it around like crazy. I mean, I was not even trying to keep it relatively smooth. I was just kind of walking, and it still turned out that smooth. Super, super impressive. The hyperlapse feature in some ways is almost worth the $400 right out of the gate, because most gimbals cost more than $400. And if you just want to add hyperlapses to your videos, this little guy does kill the gimbal, at least for hyperlapses, as Nick, their CEO, said. And it's a lot cheaper than a gimbal and a really nice camera. So that feature alone is wicked awesome in the GoPro Hero 7. I plan on using it a ton. All right, and now for feature number 2, which is stabilization. The GoPro Hero 6 had some absolutely incredible image stabilization for the fact that this camera has no moving parts, no optical mechanics going on or physical movements within the camera to stabilize it. It's completely dead off, all electronic. The stabilization in the 6 is really, really good. The stabilization in the 7, with those same stipulations, there's no moving parts, no optics are moving around inside this 7, it's next level. The stabilization is next level, and in some ways, the marketing hype is absolutely correct. This camera's stabilization kills gimbals, and I want to talk about a couple of shots that I've gotten with this camera that really justifies how it has killed gimbals. Now, obviously, that's a huge oversight, huge overstatement. Can this camera really replace gimbals? Of course not, but in certain situations, and if you know what you're doing, pull this baby out and you do not have to worry about a gimbal, and it's no hassle, no moving parts, super small, and works great. So we're gonna go over a couple of examples, how I've used this and how I believe it has gotten me gimbal-like footage. First example, of course, was the mountain biking trip. I went out and had this on my chest, and if you compare this to old footage with the 6, it's almost crazy how smooth it really looks. And again, in some of these shots, I'll try and put them side by side and switch back and forth between them. But if you look at the 7, my hands are moving just as much, if not more, than in some of the shots from my other mountain biking trips with the 6. And that horizon, that trail in front of me is staying buttery smooth. I'm moving like crazy, which sometimes, if that's what you're watching, is my hands and the handlebars are sitting there going, that doesn't look stable at all. But if you look out at where I'm heading, it's pretty unbelievable how good this stabilization really is compared to the 6. I mean, I'm going to show you guys, I'm showing you 2 clips right now. The 7 was shot on a much rockier trail. There was leaves, bumps, jumps, big rocks, you name it. The 7 handled it better than the 6 handled the other situation, which was downhilling down a slightly rutted out, slightly gravelly dirt road that cars drive on. Yeah, the stabilization in the chest mount already significantly better. I think if I put it on my head, I've seen a few guys for mountain biking who put it on their head or on their chin straps with their helmets, or the chin undercarriage. It's crazy how much better that even looks. Some people are saying, oh, of course it's not gimbal-like, of course it can't kill a gimbal. There are, of course, limitations, guys, and we have to keep those expectations within reason. I have, and I've been completely blown away with this camera because, again, you have to remember there are no moving parts in here. When I point this camera, technically, the sensor is pointing exactly where I put it, only through electronic image stabilization and how it cuts basically the outside of the image and uses that as sort of this buffer zone to kind of move and smooth out the image. Do you get that smooth footage? So of course it's not going to be gimbal-like, because if I'm in a gimbal and I move my hand, the camera doesn't move, or it moves much smoother. It stays at one fixed point. So is it completely a gimbal killer? No, but if you keep it relatively pointed where you want to point it and you turn smoothly, I think it kills a gimbal. I'm going to show you 2 shots right now of a great example of this. I put it in a selfie stick, extended and inverted it, And in one of them, I put it behind Kyle and I walking. And then in another one, the next shot, I put it behind Kyle as he ran on our tennis night. And it's crazy how smooth the results are. Wicked, wicked good stabilization. GoPro, Hero 7 Black, gimbal killer. Yeah, I buy the marketing because if you use it right, it can absolutely knock out a gimbal. Those low shots of our feet are some of my favorite shots, and they have to be stabilized. Otherwise, they look terrible. And now with this camera, I throw it in my little selfie stick, I plop it down, and I'm good to go. I've got those sweet low shots, which I love in travel films. Matty Hapoya is famous for those shots because I just love every time he shoots those, and this camera gets them perfectly. All right, guys, and my third big item is the high dynamic range picture mode. A complete sleeper hit for me because I had no expectations of using this for photography, but then I tried it out on our mountain biking ride. Here's a picture of Tyler. We were up, Tyler's my stepfather. We went mountain biking last weekend, and here he is looking out over the mountains, and he is just, the colors are great. The exposure on him is great, as well as there is still so much detail in the clouds and in the mountains and in the shrubbery beneath him. I mean, the exposure in this picture completely blew my mind, and you can compare it to a burst example that I shot where it didn't have time to do the full HDR processing, which I'll explain how that works in 2 seconds. But with this other picture that I'm flashing up now, the exposure is just awful. It doesn't look great. It looks exactly like what you would expect from a GoPro. Whereas this other picture, I mean, it's so well exposed, the highlights, the shadows, that you throw that baby into Instagram and, you know, do a little bit of tweaking with the Instagram edit mode, the shadows, the highlights, the contrast, etc. And it can just look almost like you shot it raw. I mean, I love the HDR mode on this camera, and I'm planning on using it a lot more. Again, if I'm shooting pictures with my cell phone or with this camera, I'm not looking for raw images. I don't want to edit a raw picture out of these. That's what this guy is for that I'm shooting on right now, is the big, nice, expensive, well thought out shots that'll be raw. Of course, I'll shoot those raw, but this camera and the fact that the JPEG can look as good as it does is insane. That HDR mode is awesome. Here's another example. I just went out on my patio, shot the clouds. You can see kind of the little bit of the roof underneath our above our patio, as well as some of the trees and whatnot. And then compare that to a shot I did on my cell phone, which is the Google Pixel 2, a notoriously awesome camera with good dynamic range. And those are both JPEGs, no RAW, no nothing. You compare those results and you go, well done, GoPro, well done. And really, guys, how it works, it's actually really cool tech that it takes 3, maybe more, it might be more, but I think it's about 3 images, one that's overexposed, one that's underexposed, and one that's in the middle. And the logic behind that is, well, if I overexpose it, my shadows are going to look nice. If I underexpose it, my highlights are going to look nice. And if I meet in the middle, then I have kind of some ground to blend those together. Does it all completely in camera. It's not an action shot type picture that you can do, but for landscapes, stills, stuff that isn't moving a whole lot, I'm going to start playing around with this feature, and I'm going to post a ton more pictures on my Instagram. Check it out, pay attention, and it is amazing some of the pictures you can get with this little guy. All right, guys, so the final verdict. I said it in the beginning, I'm gonna say it again. I love this camera, 100%. If you don't own a GoPro, definitely go buy this camera. If you have a 6, maybe try and sell your 6, maybe try and, you know, find a way to sell another piece of gear or something to justify buying this like I did. Do not regret it. This camera has been an absolute blast. And I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I got super excited when I bought my G9. I loved the results. I loved how this camera shoots. It's great, but I don't remember the last time I was this excited about a piece of technology. The 7 is really, really, really cool, and I'm just super stoked to start making more videos with it. I mean, for the next couple months, expect tons of GoPro stuff, tips, tricks, how I'm shooting with it, how I'm taking pictures with it, how I'm traveling with it, and leaving behind the G9 because it's so much bigger and so much bulkier. Let's just take the GoPro and let's go make travel films, and let's go snowmobiling this winter, and let's just see what we can do. I'm excited because really this camera has inspired me to basically try to emphasize using cheap technology and talk about it with you guys. And cheap is a relative term. This is a $400 camera. This is a $600 phone, but both of these are so small. They fit in my pocket incredibly well. I mean, both of them I can literally just shove in my pockets and I'm good to go. Super durable with the case. Great portrait mode, great high dynamic range mode, awesome video features. But anyway, the point being is that these two cameras combined cost a third of what my nice camera that I'm shooting on right now costs. And for about a year now, I've been shooting with this nice camera. I've learned it in and out. I've learned about shutter speed, about exposure, about frame rates, about, cinematic coloring and grading, and all of these little things I've learned with this bigger, super expensive, super nice lens camera. And then I go out and I shoot with these, and suddenly I'm having to get creative. I'm having to push myself to say, okay, I don't have as much with these two cameras, whether it's pictures or video. What can I do to push myself to go to that next level? And most people would look and go, okay, we'll get a bigger camera, a more expensive camera. Maybe I should be looking to invest in a cinema camera. And I'm sitting here going, I just love telling stories. And this little camera right here, I think, is going to tell some awesome stories. I can't wait to use it more. I'll definitely keep using the G9. Obviously, guys, if you want to shoot a home video show, this camera will not cut it unless you have like strobe lights in your room. It's not a good indoor camera. It's a great outdoor camera, which is what I plan on using it for. Almost all of my videos, if I'm not talking to you guys about tech, are outdoor videos. I love this camera. It's inspired me to start using my phone again a lot more alongside this for video, for travel, outdoor films, projects, etc. And expect to see a lot more videos talking about this camera, how I'm using it, how I'm figuring it out. And definitely, guys, go buy one, go check it out, and let's have fun with the new GoPro 7 together. Super stoked on this camera. Anyway, guys, that is all I have for you today. Loving the new GoPro. I'm gonna go edit this video and get ready to do some more GoPro videos for you guys in the next couple of weeks, maybe even the next couple of months. Snowmobiling season is right around the corner, which literally is the perfect conditions for a camera like this. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys. Peace out, have a good one, and catch you guys in the next one. All right, see ya.